Technical difficulties. All right, I think we are live back again. It might just be Joe and I for the rest of the conversation, which will be its own fabulous conversation.
Yeah, why not?
So we don't know what happened technically on Higher Ed Live backend or at Michigan State University. Who knows? We are getting a little bit of weather coming in today, so that could be it. But we will get the show going back, and hopefully we'll have a couple more guests joining us back again. So this is always a interesting part of the show. So Joe, where were we? We were talking about, I think we were talking about engagement, but you know what I would like to talk about is some of the pieces that you've written about on your blog related to kind of the conference hangover, and then also your Pachacata talk itself I thought was really great as far as connecting and building a board of directors, which getting that at a convention is a great step. So do you want to talk a little bit about that while we hopefully get some more folks online?
Sure. I think that whenever I talk to people when they go to conferences and I say, all right, what's the best thing about this? Why are you here? Why are you going? Without a doubt, number one is networking. I'm going to see people. I'm going to see friends. It's not ed sessions. Like, you go to ed sessions because you don't want to feel guilty for going to a conference and having coffee the entire time. But I could argue, and I did this a little bit at one of the conferences I went to this spring. I didn't go to sessions. I was in the hallways learning, conversing, making connections, and some of those hallway conversations were a lot more valuable than some of the sessions that I went to. So I think you have to be mindful of that, but you can't. I forget. I think both Melissa and Jen were saying it. You have to go in with a plan, and I feel like Becker Obergefell has written about this. Going to conferences with a plan, knowing who it is that you want to meet, knowing who it is that you want to. Not only who you want to meet, but what value do you want to get out of that conversation? Are you looking for a mentor? Are you looking for somebody to present with next year? Are you looking for a connection in the region? And really finding those values. And somebody else was bringing it up when it talks about the conference hangover. And I think you were mentioning it. Like, we go and we get all these great ideas, and all right, I'm going to come back, and all right, let me just get a day to get settled. Okay, it's Friday. Let me tackle this on Monday. Then Monday comes, and it's a pile of dust in the corner, and you realize, oh, I never implemented all these different things. So I think it's just managing expectations of what you expect to get out of it, and be really thoughtful in your planning before you go to the conference. Know what you want to get out of sessions, and I'm a big advocate for, if you go into a session and it's not helping you and it's not what you thought it was going to be, leave. Like, this is money you're spending. If you go to a movie and you don't like it, do you sit through the entire movie, or do you get up and leave and try and sneak into another one? Get up and leave and try and sneak into another one.
I'm a huge proponent. I mean, I am the type of person that I don't give, I give a book, like if I'm reading a novel or something, I give it 50 pages. And if it doesn't catch me, same thing for a conference session. I think this is a really critical engagement tool for future presenters, that you've got to create in that first 10 to 15 minutes a way for me as a participant in your session to feel engaged. So I definitely agree. I think that's the other case for changing up conference formats too, because if we can provide shorter snippets of information, versus an hour-long session, that might be just as great of a way of connecting with folks too. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, we have people coming back. I'm so excited. I don't know what happened. Who knows? We are getting a little weather here in East Lansing, so I don't know if that's part of the problem today. But yeah, I think as everybody rejoins our hangout here, sorry for the technical issues. We did get a question from Twitter while we were offline, and now I see my picture is gone, which that is never good. Oh well. Tony Duty actually has asked, can each of you give an example of something that you've implemented based on something that you learned at a conference? So I don't know if you want to think on that for a second, and then share what you might offer.
So I attended a number of sessions about publications and preparing for submissions strategically and writing for journals. So there was a lot of content within those that prepared me much beyond my doctoral classes can, specifically being able to meet with some of the editors of the journals. So now they know my face when I submit a publication. And I think it was also just that understanding of the more that I do it, every rejection that I get is just moving me further along. So it was just kind of acculturating me into that new process, moving from being, you know, an event programmer for so many years now to like the scholar practitioner model. That was like a whole new can of worms this last year, really, again, being strategic in those sessions that I went to. And now when I sit down to write something for publication, just having that context and even that contact, if maybe if they're not even the editor for that journal, I could send them my piece to get feedback very quickly. So that was definitely beneficial for me and where I am in my career.
That's great. Jen?
Sure. 2 years ago, I started a first-year program in our residence halls, which, unlike like theme housing or some of these smaller programs, was across the board, across our entire first-year program. And so there were a number of things that I brought back, smaller sorts of programs that were implemented by the staff and by the RAs, which have really made a difference. I think much of the effort to date had been very educational in nature, and I was missing the community piece. I was missing the peer-to-peer contact, and so there were a number of smaller programs that I was able to essentially delegate, which opened up the program a little bit more and added some depth to it. That's been really great, and that we're going to further expand on in the coming year. Other than that, you know, there are a lot of theory, lots of new ideas that I've been able to take back based on what folks have sent me looking for. So some of what I've brought has been implemented by other folks based on, again, what they had asked for with me going away.
That's great. We got another question from Twitter. So as people have questions, feel free to send them to the Higher Ed Live hashtag. So another person, Christina, asked, what insights do you have for new professionals who, if their institutions don't have funds to send them to conferences, you know, how to piece together options or scholarships or find those types of grants? And Josie, it sounds like you've had some experience doing this on your campus. Do you want to share some thoughts?
Does have some scholarship opportunities. I don't know if they're limited to only grad students or doc students, so you do have to do a little bit of digging, and every year, luckily, I think I find more and more. There's also, like for my region, Region 6 with the Western Regional Conference, if you're associated with the NUF program, there's scholarships there. So you do have to intentionally seek out those types of opportunities, and also be creative with everything else. So pack lunches and find roommates that you're comfortable like getting really cozy with, and price out options. Maybe it's better to take the train versus flying. Know that you don't always have to stick within the same parameters. And even for me, now that I fit within the grad student price bracket, which makes a huge difference with registration fees. So make sure that you're signed up for the right one, because that could save you a few $100s as well.
Definitely. Either Joe or Jen, do you have experience finding funds when your institution didn't support your attendance?
I've always, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I always try to find roommates, if anything, because the hotel cost is usually the biggest. I think my hotel for the joint conference in Orlando years ago was over $1,000 because I was there for search. Hello?
Somebody's trying to come in and see you, Jen. That's okay.
That's not on my end, but I will add to this. Melissa had actually brought up an idea earlier, which I just loved. So for those new professionals back on campus, you know, sometimes getting to a conference isn't something that you're going to be able to do based on location, hotel, travel, all of that. Sometimes it's simply out of your price range if you're even thinking about adding or putting in your own money. One of the things that Melissa suggested was taking an opportunity like this, Higher Ed Live, and maybe sitting down with colleagues, listen to it together, together and then have a conversation about it. I think that's a fantastic way to get some professional development in without requiring any funding whatsoever. So Christina, I would absolutely 100% suggest that you try that. And then look for some of the drive-ins too. Some of us have smaller organizations locally that we can jump in on. In addition, think about what other colleges exist in your area. You know, maybe taking a day out of the office is something that's doable for you. So if you're in activities, set out to go visit an activities office at another campus. If you're in housing, set out to visit a housing office at another campus. Build some of those connections, because you may find that for something as simple as a tank of gas, you can get some really great ideas, do some amazing networking, and maybe, I think, Josie, you may have mentioned it earlier, it's also an opportunity for you to go in with other campuses when you are trying to block book a particular act or an educational opportunity. So think about some of those. Melissa, I'm glad you're back. I just told them, I gave them your idea actually about you know, sitting and watching Higher Ed Live with colleagues and then engaging in a conversation. It's a no-cost way, and I think for a new professional like yourself, Christina, I would go after something like that in a heartbeat.
I just want to add one thing too, Christina. Check out what Tim St. John is doing. I don't think he was able to go to any conference. I didn't see him at any conferences this past year. So he's been, I think he spent maybe $30 on a webcam, and he's been doing Google Hangouts, 1-hour Hangouts with people from around the country, asking them questions, getting conversations going, and it's cost him nothing. It's cost him time and effort. That's it. So look at that option. Connect with Tim St. John on Twitter, and you can see he's blogged about it. And I had a conversation with him. I know he's been reaching out to a bunch of different folks, and it's been free professional development for him. I mean, he's making these great connections because he's showing the initiative to say, hey, I'm in a new position, and I'm a director now, and I'm trying to figure out, what's best for me next. What should I be thinking about? What can I be talking about? What are you thinking? And he's building a really great network for himself.
And as a former coworker of Tim, I second that. Go for it.
That's great. That's great. I think this is this conversation has really gone in an interesting direction, because I think what we anticipate as it happens at conventions and at conferences really can be done in a lot of ways beyond those formal formats, right? I mean, it's 2 or 3 days that you're together with folks, and I think that the onus is really on our professional associations to step up. Year-round engagement, provide opportunities, like Hangouts or informal meetups in cities where folks can get together. And we all pay membership dues, right, to associations. I'd love to hear what you all think as far as how our association should be responding to providing professional development opportunities and increasing engagement and involvement beyond just that 3 to 4 day period that we're in a destination city. I don't know who wants to start. Melissa, do you want to start since you're back with us?
I'm sorry, I'm back with you. I'm very excited to be back with you. I think I can certainly speak for some of the things that I know that ACPA has done, and I'm sure that NASPA is doing this as well as really a lot of the other professional associations. In higher ed, we understand that folks cannot always make it to convention. Additionally, convention is not the scene for some people. Some people it's just not their scene, and I think that is a legitimate concern as well. So lots of times what we'll see is road shows, things that are coming to highly populated areas or different campuses that want to host some best practices, some symposiums, looking towards those things. Tons of webinars that are happening at ACPA and in NASPA, as well as the other associations. And like Jennifer was talking about, doing a Google Hangout to create your own if there's something that is trending now in your area. I think that's a very powerful thing. Tell your association about it. I think our associations are really committed and understand that we need, if we're going to develop our competencies, then we need this 365. And so we're always looking for new ways, new ideas to be able to bring that to people. So if you have an idea, just because it's not happening in the association right now, it doesn't mean that the association isn't open to it and doesn't want that to happen. I think the one thing that's one thing. There are tons of things that are great about student affairs. But one of the things is that we're open to new ideas, and we understand we got to meet people where they are. So if you've got an idea around that, take it to somebody that you know is involved in ACPA or NASPA, or really just email the sites. I think both associations have some ways to get involved. That's another way to get involved. Start something new. And see where it goes. And so I really encourage people to do that, but also to take advantage of what's out there. So go to the webinars, go to the drive-ins, go to your state conferences. Lots of these things already exist. And so get involved there, but if you got a new idea, bring it.
Excellent. So it is, I know we had this little interim period where we were off the air, but it is 2 o'clock. So in kind of respect of everybody's time, I'd like to just offer the opportunity for folks to give final thoughts, and we'll start with Joe.
So many thoughts.
So many thoughts.
I can't even begin to process. I think we as members, whatever the association is, you can't be reactive. You can't sit there and complain and not do anything. Get out there, write about it, tweet about it. Go to the meetings, have the conversations. If you don't feel that you have the title or status to be able to do it, say you're a grad student and you don't think that it's $400 is an appropriate price or whatever the price is, or you don't think that the agenda is not speaking to what you need as a new professional, or what your need is as a community college professional, whatever the field is, bring that up, because more than likely there's other people who believe that are too afraid to speak up or don't feel they have a right to speak up. And this is my biggest thing: is you're paying for this membership. You're buying a product. Whatever the association is, they are providing you a service. And if that service is not up to par, complain about it. But don't just complain. Be constructive with your complaints. Hey, why aren't we doing this? I know someone who can do it for us. Why aren't we doing this? I'd love to help out with that initiative. So hold the associations accountable. That's probably the biggest thing. And I think people see that, or they hear me say that, and I've said it before, and they roll their eyes and say, who has time for that? Well, then don't complain when it comes April or March and you don't have the things that you want there. Oh, I don't have time for that. But you have time to fly out for 4 days. So the entire 12-month year, you can't tell me you don't have time to write an email or write a blog post or make a phone call and say, hey, listen, I have some ideas. Who can I speak with? At least get it out there. And then if nothing happens, hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, I've written about this. Let me know. That's the biggest final thought. I mean, I can go on with professional development and how there's plenty of free options and lots you can do, but right now my mind is on associations, and we have to do a better job as members holding it accountable, because any association conference that I've been to, they've all started off with saying, thank you so much for being here. We are our members. Show it and make sure that you're being active as members. I get off the soapbox now. I'm all fired up.
100% agree. I absolutely think that that's a really critical. And I know both of our associations and many associations do membership surveys, and that's a great place, a documented way. But many, we all publish our lists of who's on our governing boards. So connecting with those individuals directly, I think, is another great way to get those perspectives heard. So thank you for sharing that, Joe. I definitely agree. Other final thoughts on post-convention involvement, engagement, associations, etc.? Who wants to go next?
I'll go ahead and jump in if that's all right.
Sure.
Joe, absolutely agree. Thank you for saying that. And absolutely, associations need to hear their membership, and the members also need to go ahead and get involved. In my final thought, I just want to take a slightly different slant with this. When we go off to these conferences, we're often taking copious notes, or hopefully we are anyway. And then they get shoved into a bag, they get shoved into the bottom of our luggage, and when we get home, we sometimes pull them out, we sometimes review them, and we sometimes may file them. I'm going to challenge everyone to make sure that every time you go to a conference that you are taking those notes and that they're all coming back into one spot, one central location every time you're traveling, every time you're doing something professional development. That's going to become one of the most valuable files you are ever going to own. And the reason is this. When we travel to conferences, we need to not just be in this very moment. We need to not just be thinking about what's happening on our campus right now. One of the things that we know in higher education is that one of the fastest growing populations on our campus is actually the non-traditional learner. So if you're working with the standard 18 to 22-year-old population, the birth rates for that population is down, okay? So the way that we serve that traditional population is going to change by virtue of the fact that our clients are about to change, our students in their makeup are about to change. So holding on to that folder, having those notes that you've taken may help you to come up with an idea that you can translate for this new population a couple years down the road. So just because you're not using it now doesn't mean that you may not use it in the future. So hold on to all of those things. And while you're sitting in those sessions, think about the student that isn't on your campus. Hear those ideas, absorb them, toss them around, and think about how you might apply it to someone else. This is what's going to keep you not just current, but ahead of the game. As folks are concerned about brick and mortar education and what's to come of it, if you've got ideas that apply to new and different populations, new methods of providing that education, you're going to be in demand. Folks are going to want you. So think about that. Keep everything in one place. Apply that lens. Think about that student that's not a part of your community right now. And again, you're going to be marketable as heck. People are going to want you at their campus.
That's a great thought. Thanks so much, Jen. Josie, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I think my final thought would just be to really prioritize and to strategize your professional development. So really thinking about the next year, about where you're going in your profession, what your availability is based upon the sequence of your position. So you know when you go to a conference, you can be fully present and not having to respond to calls because maybe it's, you know, registration time or something. But also when you go in to really pitch what you are interested in attending, think of it as a negotiation. So maybe they can't pay for all of the conference experience, but maybe they can just pay for your registration, and then you can take care of the travel or vice versa. So thinking of it how you can work with each other in order to get an outcome that you'd be happy with. And even if you do have to invest a lot of your own dollars in the conference experience, how worth it is, and I'm talking from personal experience and really thinking about it as an investment in yourself, in being strategic in how you expand your learning and your networks.
Great point. Thanks. Melissa?
And if I can, I just really need to echo that. I think one of the big takeaways for me, and one of the things I've preached to staff for forever, is to first and foremost invest in yourself. Make a commitment to yourself that even if you can't make it to a national convention, even if you can't make it to a state or regional convention, that you are going to stay engaged. We always talk about involvement and engagement for our students, and I think it's really critical. If you're going to be the best professional that you can be, if you're going to stay excited about what we do, you're probably not going to be in it for the gobs of money that we earn. It's important that you get involved, that you get engaged in whatever way fits and feels right for you. I think one of the things that one of my colleagues told me at convention is, and one of the things that her supervisor had told her, is that you need to be twice as committed to your own professional development as your institution. And that's just a good rule of thumb. And whatever way that means for you, figure that out and absolutely commit to it. And for me, I think one of the things that's really critically important for us to do as professionals too is we've got these great competencies that we often don't really go back and visit and revisit. Figure out where your baseline is for some of your competencies and what you want to work on, and be really intentional about how you're plotting out, not just how you're going to do things at this one conference or convention, but what's the next few years going to look like? What skills do you want to develop? And I think being intentional about where you want to go is as critical as our students being intentional about where they want to go, and us being intentional about our students. So just be thoughtful about that. Most
definitely. So once again, absolutely great final thoughts from all of you, and I really appreciate each of you being on the show and sticking with us as we experience some technical difficulties today. And also thanks to everybody who engaged on Twitter today. We had a really great back channel conversation, so please go back and read through those. So coming up, we went a little out of order on Student Affairs Live, and so our next Student Affairs Live episode is actually next week. My co-host Chris Butler is going to be back. He's going to be talking about advancement and development work within Student Affairs Live, or within the field of Student Affairs, excuse me. And then I'll be back on June 4th, and I'm really excited because I just got my copy in the mail. This book just came out. It's called Job 1 2.0, and I have two of the editors as well as one of the authors, Peter Magolda and Jill Carnegie, and Kathleen Gardner are going to be joining me for a conversation about this, which is really about the next generation of student affairs professionals and personal stories about how we socialize folks into our profession. So it should be great, and if you haven't picked up this book, I highly recommend it. So I will be back on June 4th, and we just want to remind you again to get reminders about this and other shows by subscribing to our Higher Ed Live newsletter, and you can always browse the archives, listen to past shows, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. So meanwhile, I am Heather Shea Gasser. I'll be back soon with more Student Affairs Live. Thanks again to all of my guests today, and I just want to tell everybody to make it a great week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.